Welcome to the School of Wedding Photography. I'm here with Kelly Tunney, a photographer based in Canberra, Australia. In 2015, Kelly was the first female to win the Australian Institute of Professional Photography Australian Wedding Photographer of the Year. In 2017, she was awarded the NZIPP International Photographer of the Year. And in 2017 and 18, she's been an international judge for WPPI. As we go to publication, Kelly has been announced as one of the first female Nikon ambassadors in Australia. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's nice to be in a similar time zone.
Intro. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Half an hour apart, not too bad.
Yeah. Kelly, what do you think of the fact that it was only 3 years ago a woman, you, won the first AIPP Wedding Photographer of the Year title?
I was probably as shocked as everybody else. I think I remember the night that it all happened at the big fancy gala dinner. A few people started saying, "Oh, it's really weird. I can't remember the last time a female won it." And then within, the next sort of couple of hours of that evening, we sort of, I found a few AIPP members that had been around decades longer than I had. And, we pretty soon sort of figured out that, I was the first. And no, I couldn't quite believe it, really. No one's won it since. Although I came close last week, I got finalist, but that's okay. Yeah, it's surprising for the genre of wedding photography. I guess it's just, to me, it doesn't feel so male dominated at all when I'm shooting weddings, and I have so many female friends that are incredibly talented wedding photographers as well. So I don't know, maybe it's just an AIPP thing, but it was a pretty good night.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about becoming a Nikon Ambassador and what that means?
Yeah, that's also very exciting and all very new. So I'm not sure what it means just yet.
Okay.
But I've been working with Nikon for a number of years anyway, in a more casual environment setting, I suppose. But I've been shooting Nikon since one was given to me. I think my first camera when I was still in college. So they're an awesome brand. They're an awesome group of people. They are just they're just such hardworking professionals, and they've been a great supporter of me so far. So, I just look forward to seeing where it's going to go. I think it's just going to potentially open up a lot of, interesting doors all around the world, and that's exciting and scary at the same time. But I can't wait to see what's involved. So far, it's been pretty good. I mean, it's only been sort of announced very, very recently. So, maybe get back to me on that one. I'm not sure yet.
And when you say it might open a lot of doors, do you think that's going to possibly into other areas of photography?
Well, never say never. I think, I've been shooting weddings, it feels like such a long time, but I guess professionally for the last sort of 12 years. And I think about as, you get older and your career gets a bit further down the track, you want to extend yourself and try new things and explore different avenues of photography always, and I guess just with Nikon and just the people I'll meet through those connections, who knows what can happen, I guess. And that's, for me, the great part about, what I'm doing. I can sort of, stay in this creative industry maybe longer than what I thought of 5 years ago. It's pretty tough out there. It can be tough out there. So
yeah. Now, you mentioned, so you've been shooting weddings full time for 12 years?
Yeah. Well, I started my business 2006.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I'm almost a dinosaur.
Well, you're doing all right for a dinosaur, yeah. I guess that topic of longevity and how do you stay inspired and feeling like you want to keep doing this work? How are you dealing with that topic?
Oh, it's a forever moving part, I think, for me, because, I have to be honest, there's sometimes, and anytime I talk about this subject, I do try and be as honest as I can because it's hard. It's really, really hard work. I'm a mum and I'm a wife and I have, responsibilities and families and mortgages and dogs. Um, and trying to juggle all these things in the air is really, really hard. And trying to stay at the top of your game in your career is challenging, So I think for me, it is about just, I talk about it pretty regularly, but it wasn't that long ago. It's really easy to be, I think, once you get to a certain level of success. I mean, I use that very loosely because you never really feel truly successful. But once you sort of get to a stage where you feel comfortable, I suppose, I sort of got pretty complacent with where I was and what I was doing, and things came.
When you say comfortable, do you mean financially or business or artistically or just sort of the whole process?
Kind of all of the above. I think that I'm based in Canberra, and at a time when I sort of came into the industry here, it was a pretty conservative market, I suppose. It was pretty formulaic, it was done a certain way. And I think when I started, that's sort of the approach I took because that's what everyone else was doing. And then it didn't take long to realize that no one was really doing anything outside of that little square, So, and this is going back sort of 10 years ago. So people weren't really trying different things. People weren't really getting to know their couples, or there's just so much that was not really explored. And I think the second I started to shift my focus into experimenting or just even shooting in a new location, people sort of paid attention. That doesn't exist anymore. But for me, it sort of put me on the map. And then it was easy. I found it wasn't challenging. Business came to me really easily and quickly. I think my third year in, I shot 67 weddings.
How many?
67.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was busy. And that was by myself, and my son was really young then as well, so I was a machine, like working 100 hours a week, and bloody hell, like it's not sustainable. You can't sort of do that. Yeah. So, but then I just sort of like, I don't know, I found it really easy, and I found financially it was easy, and I think in about a 2 to 3 year period where I just sort of sat back and just let it all happen, it felt like almost overnight it just stopped because I was complacent and lazy and didn't advertise and just thought, I don't know, a bit cocky really, just kind of thought, well, it'll come to me. And then when it didn't, I was like, oh, bloody hell, that's not nice.
Do you think that was just related to what you did or didn't do, or could it have been the market as well?
Both. I mean, it was definitely related to what I wasn't doing because, new people were coming into the market that were just so active and enthusiastic and blogging and going to visit venues. And I was like, well, I don't need to sort of do that. But because that market was shifting so quickly, I didn't shift with it. And I had to kind of get to that point where I'm like, do I want to stay in this industry? Do I want to keep my business going? And yeah, the answer was yes. But I wanted to. I didn't feel like I had to. Like I didn't financially. it was okay. You know, I was not doing so bad there, so it wasn't a need to sort of, I need to do this all to make money. I wanted to, I'm passionate about business. I enjoy business. I think I'm okay at it, you know. So I had to just sort of get in and work hard again, you know, and that sort of was a valuable lesson, I think. And certainly now there's no way you can't snooze for 5 minutes in this industry anymore. You have to keep moving with it and keep evolving yourself and keep changing things up and working at it. But if you like doing that, go for it, you know. But if that's a drag and it's really weighing you down, then yeah, you have to weigh it all up, because it can be pretty stressful for a lot of people too.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like you hit a point where you realized you needed to sort of focus on the business side of things.
Yeah.
And well, I guess what I'm wondering is, has there been a point where you've sort of run out of creative mojo and you've
All
needed
the time.
to? Okay. So how have you sort of rekindled that? Yeah.
Yeah, a few things, and it was only really a few years ago that weddings can get to a point where I mean, I still get nervous and I still feel all those butterflies and I still have all those feelings like you have when you first start out, but at the end of the day, a lot of it is so second nature to you. If you've been doing, you know, maybe I've shot 700-800 weddings or something like that. I don't even know, but there's so many habit-forming things in there that just are so comfortable. You can predict things a bit easier. You just kind of know your place. You know what you're doing. You're comfortable. So I kind of thought, well, I'd get asked to do certain things and I would often just say no. And there was just one, it was a really simple thing. It was just an editorial thing for a local magazine here. And I just sort of thought, look, I need to do something different. I don't know. I need to work with other people. I'm just sort of a bit stuck in my ways. And I think it was a bit of a catalyst to just sort of, okay, well, that was actually way more fun than I anticipated. I felt good about it. I felt like I was really pushing some boundaries again, and it just felt, and it flowed quite naturally. There's certain things that I don't enjoy photographing, and it was more that this thing was a bit of a fear thing, I suppose. I thought I wouldn't be very good at it, so I didn't even want to attempt it unless I was going to do a fabulous job, I suppose. But the feeling that I got from that was just enough to spur me into, okay, well, I need to bring a bit of that back to my everyday work, my client work again.
What was the thought process that kind of got you over that fear and made you do that editorial anyway?
Not overthinking it, I think, because when I was asked to do it, instantly your brain goes into overload and that self-doubt, and you think, oh my gosh, this is these are really clever people. There's a team of people, like it's 20, 30 people are involved in this thing, and what if I let them down? And so your brain's ticking over with all those really negative kind of thoughts, which I think as a creative is so natural and so normal, and they still happen to me all the time. But I think it's just a lot of self-talk as well to yourself. It's like, okay, you're thinking about things that probably won't happen. They're out of your control. The ones that are in your control, you're good at it. And kind of like, and it's the same sort of thing that happens in my wedding work often, is that you just have to rely instinctively that you're good at what you do, and you kind of have to back yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of that. It was just that sort of fear and kind of just like slapping yourself around and be like, come on, for fuck's sake, like seriously, what's the worst that could happen? And then once I got that, it gave me confidence, I guess, and
Yeah.
that confidence then could just come back into my everyday work. And, you know, this still happens. This sort of stuff still happens now. Like about 2 years after that, I was a stills photographer on a movie set for a few months. And that was exactly the same thing, only worse. I'd never done anything like it. No one gave me direction. This was 2015 as well. And I felt sick every morning driving in there because, it was so anxious.
Yeah.
And once you get into that flow and you actually just start, then it just naturally progresses into cool stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. And so are you still doing things that sort of feed the creativity?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, you know, the workshops, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well with James Simmons, my mate Jimmins, Clarity Project. We started that last year.
Yeah.
And, you know, I enjoy public speaking. I'm okay with, and presentations and speaking and things like that. But this is still putting yourself out there and trying to sell yourself to a very saturated market, even in the workshop world. That's a bit of a mind battle as well, because you're thinking, both of us are like, what could we have to offer? You know, it's really hard to get out there and just get on your pedestal and sing your praises and not trying to
chest and
and not sound like an asshole.
Yeah.
And just be good people about it, you know. So but that was, you know, that was a challenge again, and it's just diversifying your work. You know, I'm only shooting probably about 25, 28 weddings at the moment. So doing something like this is changing it up again. You know, I'm doing something different and mentoring people and helping people. And we did great last year. Both of them sold out, and we're doing it again in a couple of weeks this year. So
this is Clarity Project with James Simmons. What do you cover broadly? What do you cover in the workshop?
Well, it's just a day, so it's not a 3-day. You know, it's a lot of information in, you know, an 8-hour period, but everything from just, you know, a lot of really fundamental good business stuff, like setting up your business and how you should use insurance and how you should set up tax stuff and, you know, all that sort of boring stuff, but stuff as creatives that we all generally really struggle with. Big emphasis on workflow, editing. We did about an hour or so of shooting as well, which was really great last year. We're going to do a bit more of that this year. A lot of mindset stuff. I guess it's just sort of knowing, you know, as a creative, how we all function and what you're getting yourself into and how to sort of stay ahead of the game. And like we said before, longevity. You know, how to stay in business longer than one or 2 years. And just we've got, you know, the cool thing, the sponsors and stuff that we have on board are really cool, and we sort of finish it. It's a pretty cool setting to learn in, because we sort of finish it by 4:00 and open up the bar and just keep the workshop going for a few hours while we're having drinks, and keep that part more candid, so it's a bit more Q&A sort of style. So it's really great.
What sort of things have you learned from running the workshop?
Jimmins has taught me a lot.
Okay.
He's very clever. He's very, very clever. I think just even you're learning from your attendees as well. Like, we were surprised last year. Our first one was in Sydney, and we had over 50 people there, and we had people that have been, you know, good friends of ours that have been in business 10, 15 years longer than us. And that was really nice to see, you know, that people are just there to get a fresh perspective and try something different. And we had everything right down to people that had only shot their first wedding a week before the workshop. So, it's trying to, I know we're not going to please everybody in that sort of market, I suppose, but just people were really quite open in what they were sharing with us as too. So you're always learning. Like, you can never get up there on a stage or anything and preach that you're the expert in everything. There's certain things I know in my business that I'm probably not great at, but if I'm not great at it, I will either outsource it to someone who is really good at it or get help from somebody who is passionate about, something like printing, color management, that sort of stuff. I appreciate it. I love it. I just don't know how to do it very well.
Yeah. You said something much earlier and just then about, I'm thinking about the fact that your workshop seems to be in large part focused on business. And you said earlier that you're good at business. How important has been sort of being on top of the business side of things been to the success of your brand?
Oh, yeah. I'm quite lucky. My husband's a CPA accountant.
Okay.
So that's come in handy over the years. And I just think that over the years, I suppose, even with marketing and things like that, and I'm surrounded by some pretty great people too that are very clever and very smart, have very smart, innovative minds,
Do you mean in your personal life or
professional
people?
In business, like with All Grown Up as my other business with Dan O'Day.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a crazy creative and hard to keep up with sometimes, but he teaches me stuff still all the time. So, you learn over the years, you learn what works and what doesn't work. But, like I said, I suppose I just set everything up really well from, I think, the beginning, and I just had the right advice, and we went through all the right channels to make sure that, that stuff didn't come as naturally to me in the beginning. I think, I did study photography and I did it for 3 years, pretty much straight out of school, and that stuff they don't teach you. You sort of come out of a degree or a course like that and you expected to go and start your own business, but no one really helps you, advise you through those sort of tough first 2 years. It's really hard.
Yes, yeah. I studied photography as well, and I remember the first day of it, they sat us down in a room and they said, 99% of you will not be photographers.
Isn't that funny? They said the same thing to me too.
Oh, really? Where did you go?
I was in Canberra. Yeah,
no, okay.
So,
well, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, I sort of wonder, maybe they should be teaching things that are going to encourage or sustain people to be photogrophers.
Mind you, mine was like 15, 18 years ago, so I'm sure things have changed. They were still teaching me how to use sensitometry and how to process E6 files.
Oh, really?
Ancient, when have I ever used any of those two things in my career? Never. So I'm sure things have changed.
A little bit, I suspect, yeah. Let's talk about All Grown Up Weddings. That's a business you run with Dan O'Day. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, we kicked that off around 2013, give or take. We have a studio in Braddon here in Canberra, and we have had that space or on the same street at least for the last 4 years, which is pretty cool. So we have seven photographers at the moment, based here in Canberra and Sydney and Melbourne and the Blue Mountains. And we've shot anywhere from like 20 weddings a year to 150 weddings a year. So it's pretty hectic most of the time. It's a lot of fun. Like it's sort of not quite at all what we expected when we started, because we basically, Dan and I have been in business for a similar length of time. We're a very similar age. We were pretty tired of shooting 50 plus weddings a year and lots of travel, and you're always thinking, what's next? Like, you imagine yourself in your 30s doing what you're doing, and you think, oh, well, I won't be doing this when I'm 50. There's just no way physically it's possible, because it's bloody hard work. So that's where All Grown Up sort of came from, I guess, is that, it was a long-term plan for us, really.
So can you just step back a second and explain, how does it work? So if someone comes into the business, what happens?
Yeah. So we do, when we first started it, we really had to start from scratch in terms of establishing a brand and getting that recognised and active in Canberra, first of all. But it's funny, it's sort of evolved into being a bit more nationwide now. We probably shoot the least amount of weddings in Canberra, which is really funny, and we're actually trying to turn that around. But so we'll get an inquiry that will come to All Grown Up, and it might be a wedding in Sydney or Canberra or wherever, and we have a pretty cool website with just tons of everybody's work, and we sort of talk to them about the type of wedding they might have, big, large, small, and we'll sort of steer them into, the direction of who we think will be a good fit for that particular wedding. So all of our shooters are so different. Some that have been with us from the beginning, who are used to shooting really big Greek weddings with 500 plus people and will work like a maniac for 18 hours. And then we've got other shooters who are, like the small, intimate kind of backyard wedding, and they only want to shoot maybe 5 hours. So we kind of get we get all sorts of inquiries, I guess. We've had one of our shooters, Tomo's, gone across to Spain last year and shot a wedding over there. And so we do travel a fair bit. But Dan and I are sort of responsible then for that quality control and keeping that brand nice and tight and consistent, and the quality's, really high. But we do make it as personalised as we can. So we make sure that people know it's not just some wedding factory. They don't just turn up and whoever, we send anybody off to their wedding and it doesn't matter. That's not quite how we work. No. So because it is a bit more personalised, it is a lot more work, a lot more people management. It's a lot of work. A lot of work.
And so how does it work as a business model? Are these photographers, the shooters you have on board, do they work under their own brand independently as well, or do they only work for you?
Yeah, some do. We've got, as I said, because the shooters are so different, we've got a couple that work full-time even still, and then we've got another couple that have their own business as well. So each of them require different levels of attention and detail, I suppose. But they're contractors for us, so they'll, they're responsible for their own public liability insurance and all sorts of things that we make sure are all in check. And they work for us in a contractor capacity. So. And
what's the advantage for them to be working with you as a contractor?
It's funny. It's like, I think sometimes I've often said to Dan, man, I think I might just do that. Like, quit a business for myself and just, there's pros and cons to anything, but for some, if I use Tomo James as an example, he's still working full time, loves shooting, and he's very, very good at it. He's a great people person. Zero interest in running a business. Yeah. Like minus infinity, zero interest. So which is great for us because he's so loyal He actually started shooting for Dan before All Grown Up even existed, probably over 10 years ago. And he was Dan's first assistant, I think. So he's very, very loyal, very reliable, which is, of course, what you want for any contractor-employee scenario. But so he just gets to meet all the hard work's done for him. There's no emails really for him. There's no financials exchange, no contracts. He works on the logistics of where he has to be with them. Turns up, high fives them, has a great day with them, hands over his files to us, and
he's done.
He's done.
Yeah. Okay.
So there is a lot to be said for that approach. I think it's not for everybody, and I think for the other shooters that we have, like, they are so ridiculously good. They've all been with us almost since the beginning, and we're really. We probably don't thank them enough, actually, but we try and look after them as best as we can. And Dan and I are constantly doing our best, with limited time that we have sometimes, is to, spend that time with them and mentor them and help them navigate through their own challenges as well. And we take them away a couple of times a year and just hang out and bond and drink a few whiskies here and there, but mostly it's just, I think it's nice to be part of a group. I know what it's like running my own business for such a long time by myself. Before I was with the IRPP, it can be pretty isolating. And sometimes you just don't know if you're on the right track, and if you don't have those connections or the friendships and that sort of thing with other photographers, it can be really, really tough for a lot of people. So I think being part of that minor, like, tiny little community family type of environment, I think is really important for all of us. And we all get along, and we're all mates in the real world as well. So
yeah. Have you had any problems with this sort of model, this business model?
I wouldn't say problems. I mean, Dan and I are forever reassessing and changing things. We've certainly, the structure has largely stayed the same from the beginning, but we've had to tweak it many times over to get it right, and we're still doing that because again, there's no rule book for this sort of stuff. And I think when we first established All Grown Up, from my knowledge, there might have only been one or two other businesses like it in Australia. So, I wouldn't say problems necessarily, but I think just the workload and what's important if you're doing high volume weddings is just having, a seamless system. You need to have really strong systems in place, and we didn't really think about that when we sort of first started. I think we've had to really adapt new ways of doing things, and I mean, one of them was just outsourcing all our editing, which we do to Raw Digital now, and we've done that for probably the last 2 years. But before that, all our shooters have a different editing style. So we'd get all these great weddings back and there's no flow and no consistency. So, having that facility to outsource everything has been really good, but of course it's more work. You're more involved in getting thousands of files FTP'd to somebody and then getting them back, and then how you do all that. So we're constantly trying to streamline that all the time, and that's probably the hardest part of it. So, and working with other people, it's sort of Dan and I are pretty different people, so it's sort of we're trying to manage the best way we can, and then managing shooters and their needs and stuff. It's just you have to become a boss essentially, and again, that's something we probably underestimated when we started as well. But it's okay. It's been it's been great, and certainly a big learning experience as well.
Yeah. Have you? So you said you've got 7 shooters. Have you found that you've sort of reached a point where that's the right number for you to manage, or I mean, could you go more, or would you rather be less?
Yeah, I think certainly we always thought we'd probably go for more, but I think for now it's a manageable amount. And even in that 7, there might be one shooter that really only wants to shoot 5 weddings a year or something like that, and then others might want to shoot 40. So it's the balance between all of them. And we've had Martine, she's just about to have her second baby, so she's had some time off, and then she'll come back and that sort of thing. So I think for now the number works. And I think depending on, if we extend a bit further out to Canberra, which is really what we want to do, we might consider, some extra people here on the ground. But
why do you want to extend more into Canberra?
Well, we have this awesome studio space. We've got a bit of a street presence now on Lonsdale Street where we are, and it's great. We should be. Canberra just is. It's a bit underestimated in terms of what the rest of the country does, because people still think it's a little bit conservative and it's a little bit boring, dare I say it, but it's evolving really quickly as well. So, and there's some brilliant, don't get me wrong, there's some amazing shooters already here, but there's just capacity for us to do a lot more here to keep it local and just be at the top of our game here, and not have Canberra shooters travel every weekend, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure they want to be a bit close to home as well. Yeah. And we've got this space, we can meet clients there and then come and see what we're all about and look at our albums and all that sort of stuff, and not do the Skype thing all the time. So it makes sense.
Yeah. It sounds like, so if you're running this business, which sounds quite labor intensive, how much of this is taking up your time as opposed to your own photography?
90% of my time.
Oh, wow.
No, I mean, it changes. We're sort of also coming out of the end of our quiet season, so I've had a really nice break sort of over winter anyway, because I for me personally, with shooting my own weddings, was really quiet as well. So, just lets me get to all my son's soccer games and be a normal person for a while. And I think everybody, I know a lot of my close friends that are shooting weddings as well. I mean, we do all need that downtime, to get sort of fully charged again and look after ourselves. And, but it's challenging in Canberra, cold winters, and you just don't want to leave the house.
It's a cold place there, yeah.
Pretty cold.
Yeah.
Like we're already into September and my heater's still on as we speak.
Wow.
And it's 11 o'clock in the morning. And, so it's okay. I still love it here, but I think for my time, it's always going to be distributed differently depending on what's going on. And Dan and I moved the All Grown Up studio at the start of the year, and so it was pretty natural for that to take up a bit more time.
Yeah. In
just moving and getting settled again. But it's forever keeping me on my toes. So, we're going to talk about sort of longevity and being a creative. And I still like that I don't know what my day is like every day. As I said, I have an accountant who's a husband. I
might edit that bit out.
Oh my gosh, husband who's an accountant. But I mean, he's not a terribly black and white one, but he's pretty methodical, and he really likes routine and likes to pretty much leave the same time for work every morning, and I don't, at all. So, somehow we make it work, but still it's about being a creative and just having that freedom and flexibility.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good life.
It's important. Yeah.
Really cool. And I don't think, I never take it for granted.
Yeah.
Never.
If you're, if all of your businesses closed, if there was some reason why everything closed down and you were going to start again now, knowing everything you know, which one would you sort of lean towards starting?
Like starting a new business?
So whether it just be running workshops or just running the collective business or being a photographer, wedding photographer.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I'd probably let Kelly Tunney go, to be honest, because I just think that opportunities I have elsewhere will always allow me to be creative and shoot what I want, and not necessarily do it just because I have to for a business, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but I love the workshop part of it, and I love that it's only once a year, and it's manageable, and it's a whole lot of fun. And I think, as challenging as All Grown Up is, and that structure, I like the challenges of it, and I like problem solving, and I like trying to make it better and being challenged by people, and the rewards are still there. It's hard work, but I still get a lot out of it, I suppose. And I think I've found I just like working with people. If I sort of go back to just working from home, which I do sometimes, like today, I suppose it's still nice to be able to do that, but I certainly wouldn't want to do that full time. I think I'd go stir crazy.
Yeah.
So I think I would. That would probably be the first one to go.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
How do you define being a successful wedding photographer?
It's a good one. I think there's many things. Financial obviously is one thing, because I feel like we all want to be fulfilled creatively, and we all want to feel like we do a great job for people, and that's obviously super important. But I think people don't often like talking about making a profit. It's sort of, I don't know. I'm not afraid of that, I suppose. I did start this business because I enjoyed photographing people, but I also needed to make an income for my family, and for a while there, it was our only income. It was very successful, and my husband stopped working for a couple of years because we just couldn't, we couldn't manage.
Yeah,
and he was, he had a very, very well-paid job as well. So, I think so. Being profitable is certainly one thing, but I think having choices is, for success is obviously important. That, I feel pretty fortunate to be in a position where I can run my business. When my son was a bit younger, I would run it a bit slower, and then Phil would sort of take a bit of a backseat in his career, and then I could go full force, and then I could slow it down and speed it up. And I mean, it's pretty amazing that we have those choices, and we can make those decisions. And I think being successful has allowed me to sort of do that.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't take that for granted either. Yeah.
No. Do you, are there sort of maybe two or three things that you think are the most important factors in running a profitable photography business?
Yeah, I think it's just always, it's very easy, and I do this as well. You sort of, I think if running the business side of things and knowing your profit and loss and knowing exactly your magic number all the time, you have to be constantly aware of what you're aiming for and working out in your business what it is that you need. What I need is going to be very different to the person next to me. So knowing exactly what that number is and you're working towards it and just being aware, and I think a lot of us creatives don't find that side of it can come very naturally. So I think it's just being aware and just sort of having your finger on the pulse with
focus. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I think there's, what was the original question? Because I went off on my own.
What makes a photography business financially successful?
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing I suppose is just, even how you're running your business, if it's weddings specifically, it felt like for me anyway, it used to be sort of my prices and my structure was pretty solid for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and it wouldn't sort of change too much. I think the way business is now and the way the market is now, it's just changing so quickly, I feel. And I know
in what way?
Well, just, I don't know. I sort of said it before, I think, when we first started talking, that I know there are a lot of people really struggling to get the numbers that they need, and so many people are so talented, so very, very, very talented, and very quickly they're incredibly talented. And it's hard for the client base to really distinguish, okay, well, it takes a good eye to be able to really define that, the top 10% in the country, I suppose, because largely a lot of people are working in that big middle market, which is so saturated, but so good. It's so good. And so I think people are now sort of going back to what it used to be like a long, long time ago, is just then competing on price, and the prices I feel like have kind of halved since when I was shooting maybe 8-10 years ago. It was, I won't say easy. I don't mean to say that in an arrogant way at all, but I think, I could be charging about $4,500 for 5 hours. People will almost laugh at you if you want to. Depends on who you are. I don't mean this as a blanket statement, but people are sitting around the $2,000 mark for 8 hours or something now, and they're really talented.
Yeah.
And I think that's a real problem, like a really big problem, where we're all pricing ourselves out of a job, And
it's not, well, I don't think it's sustainable.
Of course it's not.
Yeah.
And I'm forever thinking about, okay, why is this happening? How can we help educate these newcomers? Because largely what happens is these photographers that come into the market, are inexperienced, and that's okay. There's no problems there, but they don't really know what to charge. They don't really know how to run a business, how to set it up, how to save for tax, and how to do X. So they're plucking numbers out of the air and, oh, what's this guy doing? Okay, well,
I'll do a bit less. Yeah.
I'll do a bit less.
Yeah.
And that's where they're starting off. And they'll learn along the way, but sometimes it's too late. It's made that big dent in the market that we can't undo overnight. You know, this has been years coming, and I think it can be really scary for a lot of people. And I can see it even in All Grown Up, because All Grown Up largely functions in that middle, and we've suffered as well because people don't want to pay what we're charging, and we were easily getting it 3 years ago. That's how quickly it's changing.
So how do you think, so say you're a photographer who understands the fact that you need to charge accordingly and appropriately for the, you know, insurance and savings and superannuation and all the real expenses of living, and not just plucking a figure out of the air. How do you keep doing that? How do you be a photographer in this industry then, if everyone is undercutting?
Oh, like, stick to your guns. It's probably not, maybe it's not very good advice, but it's just, I know it's really hard. Actually, I find it really, really challenging and really, really hard to talk about, because I understand a lot of people just can't be in that position because they need income, they need to survive, and they need what they need. So if they're going to lose a couple of $100 here and there, you sort of think, oh, well, doesn't really matter, you know. But I think the long-term effects are really catching up on people as well. But, you know, it's, when I say stick to your guns, it's perhaps proving your worth, you know, and use it. And I know Dan has been a really good advocate for this, and he's taught me ways that he's done it, is just using that opportunity to educate the clients why you're worth that, you know, and not sort of doing whatever it is they want you to do, you know. And you can use that opportunity to educate them and turn it around, but showing your worth in other ways.
Like what?
And, well, just that, you know, you're running a different business to Joe Blogs, and it might be that, you know, you spend more time with them, or you go to their rehearsals, or you are a bit more invested in showing that you care and that you're not a wedding factory, and you take care in your albums, and you show them off the way that they should be, and you have an importance on prints, whatever it is that is your point of difference. Figure that out and hone in on that, you know, and make yourself different to the other people that are charging the same as you, and make it easier for clients to realize that, you know, they're not just buying you on a package, they're buying you for
value,
your personality. It can be your enthusiasm, your whatever it is about you. People will love that, you know. And at the end of the day, if it's going to cost them $300 more, $500 more, they're probably more willing and more accepting to do that, because you've shown them. It could be, just that you care, you know. And I know I have to do that for what I charge, and I've sort of priced myself out of a lot of the market, but I've kind of just left it that way because, I just can't shoot 50 weddings a year anymore anyway.
No,
but I find then the people that eventually do find their way to me are 9.5 times out of 10 my people, like dead on.
Yeah,
I've got them in a nutshell, and you know, they wind up either being your friends, or you're in their lives for a little bit longer, and you want to be there, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just having a different business approach, I suppose, and that's not for everybody. And I know that's really easy to say for someone who's been around longer than 10 years, but you can still do the little things, because the little things are probably what make the biggest difference.
Yeah.
And I think people are too scared, or they don't know how to do that, so they just default to money.
Yeah.
I'll just charge less.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's not, they won't appreciate it. Generally, it's a blanket statement again, but generally they just, and then they'll, you know, often they'll take advantage of you, and then they'll want more.
Yeah.
I'll just stay another hour. It won't matter. And then all of a sudden you're just zapped of everything, and then you hate yourself and don't want to ever do it again.
Oh, keep doing the business. Yeah.
Vicious cycle.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really, really tricky.
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers at all. I mean, there's a lot more clever people than me out there that have better responses to that. But I think I feel like for the people, maybe like myself, who've been around a bit longer, is, you know, we want to sort of help people navigate through those challenges, not by saying do what I do, but just...
Here's an example.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What are you looking forward to?
My son's soccer match tonight. He's playing in a do or die. So if they lose, they're out of the season. If they win, they play in the grand final next week. So I'm nervous and excited about that. No, I'm excited for, I think, just forever working at something that's forever changing. And, you know, I think whatever is around the corner with Nikon and with All Grown Up, I don't know exactly what it is, but it still excites me that I don't know what it's going to be, but I know it'll be good. You know. And you know what? My last wedding I shot at the end of May, and I shoot my next wedding in about 3 weeks, and I'm pretty ready to start again, I think. Yeah, hopefully I remember how to do it, but 3 months off is a long time.
Pretty sure you will remember.
You know, it's funny. You just, 3 months. It's a long time to be...
Yeah. Not in that headspace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's good too. It sort of clears out the cobwebs.
Yes. Yeah.
Kelly, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Yeah, it was a great chat. I really enjoyed that. And
good. Go off on a few tangents, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, it's good to do that. If people want to follow you, where can they find you online?
Pretty much KELLYTUNNEY, aka Kelly Tunney.
Yeah.
That's pretty much Instagram, you know, Facebook, usual stuff.
Yeah.
It's just all my name.
Kelly Tunney.
Nothing exciting.
Okay.
Kelly Tunney.
Fantastic. All right, Kelly. Thanks so much. Take care.
No worries. Thank you.